everyone. We have a game with the black pieces against Gloria, 1984, rated 1070. She opens up with d4, so we won't be getting a caro-kann, and we respond by bringing a piece towards the center. She then wastes her turn by making a random pawn move, so we're going to play in the center by establishing a pawn presence there and developing our bishop. She plays e3, doesn't threaten anything, blocks in her own bishop. We want to continue playing and developing in the center. So we're going to develop another minor piece towards the center. Okay, white develops a piece. It doesn't threaten anything. We're going to continue with e6. This is center and development. Very standard stuff. And the position's, almost symmetrical, except we have our bishop outside the pawn chain. So white goes bishop d3, offering a trade of bishops. You could definitely trade, you could keep the bishop, you could ignore it. All options are fine. I'm just trying to decide what I want to do. For simplicity's sake, we're going to take the bishop, and what this does is it gives us the turn back, because he has to recapture. Now it's our turn again. We want to develop and or center if we can. So let's bring our bishop to an active square, controlling the center and preparing king safety. White just castles, and now we can just castle, king safety, and development. White continues to develop his piece. Maybe he's threatening to play c4, or e4, trying to pawn break with one of these. That makes sense. But now that our king is safe, we still want to play in the center and with development. This means that we can play c5, and there is no queen check here anymore. So we're immediately attacking his center with a flank pawn, and he does the exact same thing, pushing c4, attacking our center. So these pawns are all likely going to just liquidate, come off the board, which is fine. But even though there's so much tension here, you don't have to necessarily move. You don't have to flinch. You don't have to take and develop his piece, or take and develop a piece. You can let him take. So what we're going to do is simply develop a piece, our last minor piece, towards the center. And we've done everything correctly, everything perfectly. Our pieces are out, 2 pawns hitting the center on the 5th rank. I mean, can't complain. So white does both pawn breaks. He doesn't choose one, he does both. So he plays e4, and what does this threaten? Well, this comes with an actual threat of forking the pieces, so this needs to be addressed. We can address it in different ways. The most obvious is to take. Removing the threat by removing the pawn. He recaptured with the knight. This opens up his bishop. Also puts some pressure on our position. And so, since this is his most active piece, and it is threatening annoyances, our pawn, our bishop, let's take it off the board. He has to recapture with the queen. We could choose to trade more things. Because of this tension, we could trade more pieces and pawns. We could also maybe develop our queen somewhere, but I'm not really sure how that's better. I mean, his strongest pawn is the d4 pawn. It's in the center, it's on the 5th rank. I think we should take it with our flank pawn and get it off the board. And in a position like this, there's no way black is worse, right? So they have to take the pawn back with the knight. And now it's up to us. Do we want to trade? Well, I think we do want to get pieces off the board as black so we can maintain the initiative, get the turn back. And in this particular case, it also happens to come with a tactic that wins the game. He has to take the piece back, and it walks directly into a puzzle rush tactic. Bishop check, loose pieces, drop off. Okay, so not taking the bishop is absurd, because you lose the queen either way. You might as well take the bishop. And you can see how our position, our structure is perfect, everything's perfect, and we found a little tactic and won a queen. All we did was make solid moves. Okay, so now he hits the queen, so we might as well take stuff for free because we have to move the queen anyway. Let's ruin their pawn structure. I mean, if you take this, he's gonna put a rook here and take back, invade your territory, so you don't have to take pawns. So you know what, let's take this one, so when he hits the queen, he doesn't get a pawn back. Okay, he finally takes the piece, but that wastes a turn. He could have taken it before. Let's just get a rook in the game. And then our other rook will have to come in the game. So he hits our queen, which is just a waste of a turn because we'll move our queen. I'm just going to move it here just to get the turn back. This is the only check. So now we get to move again, which is nice. We can put our other rook over here. I'm purposely hanging this pawn because we're up 7 points of material, and taking a pawn which is just a waste of time, which is good for me. So he moves more pawns. Of course, pawns have no bearing on the game when I'm up 7 points of material, so you're supposed to play with the pieces, but he moves some pawns, so now we can try to infiltrate his position with our rooks and our queen. So let's just start with our queen, mostly to get it out of the way of the rooks and apply pressure. So he moves the pawn that was under attack, which is fine. I'm just going to make a random rook lift move. It hits the pawn, but it just increases the activity. Now it's on his side of the board, controlling 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 squares in his position. You know, even if you have a rook, let's say here, it does control horizontally still, but these are squares in your position. That's why it's important to get to your opponent's half of the board and take away squares in their position. So he attacks the queen. The rook's behind it. I kind of want to sack stuff, but maybe not yet. Yeah, I guess not yet. So we'll just move the queen out of the way, offer a rook trade. All trades are good for us. The pawn's hanging, the trade is hanging, and he can't kick our queen because the bishop's hanging. You know, if I could sack my queen for, let's say, rook and bishop, I'll do it, since I'm up so much material. Okay, so he moves his king, but I don't think you really want to be moving your king with the queens on the board. So I'm just going to take his rook. He takes. Now I'm going to throw in this check. With only one rook on the board, he can't coordinate rooks and bully the queen. So my queen can get even more active than before. And well, because we have a back rank thing issue, I'm just going to spend one turn just to make one square for my king. So I don't have to think about it. I can't blunder it ever. It's out of the way. Okay, so he goes pawn hunting, which, you know, can't matter at all. And now I'm going to get one square closer to his king, threatening to bring my rook in. And then after the trade of rooks, I can just easily get a second queen. But Gloria played pretty well throughout the opening. Aside from the random h3 move in the beginning, it was very symmetrical-ish position. So they moved the bishop back, but I still get in the trade of the rooks, which is what I wanted. And now this, when I recapture, okay, this makes no sense. So I take the rook. He has to take back. What? Okay, just resigns. Super weird. So let's go through the game. Okay. So we have development and center. We have center and development. We have development and center. We have center and development. And in this position, you have many moves. You can drop the bishop back. You can just leave it here and recapture with the pawn. You can throw a knight in here. You can throw the bishop in here. You can play knight. You can develop your knight. You can develop your bishop. You have lots of different moves. We just trade without this bishop here for white. He doesn't really have good attacking chances ever. And you kind of immediately equalize. So why not, right? And then we develop and center. King safety and development. And then center and development. And the position's equal here. So it's not like we're much better. I mean, it's very, like I mentioned, symmetrical. Our bishop's a little better than his bishop because it's out, you know, it has scope. And that's about it. Our knight is a little better than his knight as well, so our pieces are a little better. It is his turn though, so. Okay, and so, I mean, I thought he was going to try to get one or the other pawn break, but not both. So as soon as he makes this one, it goes from equal to minus 1.3. And it's just a little too loose. There's just too much hanging. And so he doesn't have the proper development to support it. And so we take his most active piece, luring, and then this is all a forced sequence because we take his pawn with a fork, so he has to take back. Then we take his knight, he has to take back. Then we take his pawn, and unless he wants to be down a pawn, he has to take back. But if he does, he loses the game due to our tactic, which loses a piece. So his best option was to abandon the pawn, but he didn't see it, and this leads to the puzzle rush tactic. So we didn't do anything crazy, just straight logic, and the game eventually led to a tactic. And with 98% accuracy, the one inaccuracy was that, and I knew it when I did it, you do have the option of playing c5 immediately before developing and castling. But then you always have to consider white's immediate c4 response, trying to blow up the center with your king there, and also this queen check. You also have to, you know, have your response, whether it's queen d7 or knight d7 giving up the pawn, which there are lines like that too. So I wanted to just get my king, show you guys to get everything safe first, then you play c5. You'll lose a lot less games like this, so hopefully this helps. Just a very center-oriented game with a tactic cherry on top. Good luck in your chess. Submit your rapid games in my Discord, and goodbye.